The artist forming the artist known as I Don't Know is a British artist that has released a song that we could argue is kind of controversial, but we could argue is kind of talking about the factors that people deal with on a daily basis. And so, with that being said, I think it's only fair that we look at a deeper dive at the lyrics themselves and kind of just express it, because the message behind it, I think, goes without saying that it's a very deep and a strong message behind it. But the question is it, who is it benefiting? I think that would be the general question of who does it benefit, but why is this song in such great discussion, right? So why did it go viral? But also, why are we genuinely talking about this song, right? And it's called Mr. Police, which is, I think, fitting for the way that he goes into detail with the song, but we'll go right into it. Let's see what happens. We'll go right into it. And I Don't Know starts the song off with a very, hey, Mr. Policeman, how are you? You know, kind of a general conversation of somebody that's like being pulled over. Even in the video, you see him getting pulled over, and you're like, that's a bit extreme, right? Like it's sad to say that we live in a world that situations happen to a certain race of people, but it happens, and so that has to be looked at. He said, just like your clothes, you make them blue, right? And I cross the street, and he just says, like, I didn't see anybody. I was being he thought he was being law-abiding, right? So it's a very conversational piece. It reminds me of, like a journalist point of view, but it's very, I don't know. I don't know. It has a very unique tone to it. He says, there was no one around. I looked both ways before I got the street. There was no one around. Why are you, why? How did you see me? Which could be relating to that. There are some officers that decide to hide in certain places and, commit certain crimes. And we can talk about, he said, I look both ways before I cross the street. We consider, he could say that he's jaywalking, but in the video, he's strictly in a car, which there are some officers in certain counties that will pull you over for jaywalking. And I think that's what he's saying. He says, I didn't see anybody. I didn't see anybody. I obeyed the signs. I thought it was fine. I thought it was clear to walk across the street. But, there's this prejudgment or bias that certain people have. And to get rid of that bias is to fix the problem altogether. But it's hard to fix a bias in which people do not recognize that it is a bias. He says, I look both ways across the street. I saw no one there. How did you see me? I'll take the ticket, Mr. Officer. How do you, Mr. Officer, how do you do? How are you today? Just kind of create this dialect, this conversation that, to make the, weird thing, to make the conversation almost as, hey, I'm not threatening, which I get it, it's weird to say that I get it when I shouldn't have to, but there are situations where like, I get it, that's not necessarily why, we would do it, but that's why he's doing it. He says, hey, how are you doing? He says, I saw you sped right past. You say I sped right past you, which is kind of, hey, and it's a weird discussion about the way that we see crime and how we view crime, which is, without a doubt, I think it's a scary thing to look at. We don't think of certain things as crimes, but then they are, and we don't realize that they are crimes. And so that's very weird. He says, I saw, I obeyed the signs. He says, I'll take the ticket instead of going to jail, which, we understand that dialogue of, hey, I don't want to go to a jail system that, they say a speedy trial, but however, you look at these cases and they take years and people are losing their lives, losing like jobs and stuff because they're locked up behind bars. He said, but rather than that, I'd rather go to jail. I hope you read my mind, which is a great thing to look at overall. But he says, but this time it's just a fine. I'm like, what does that mean? He kind of just tries to show that this aggressive side of people, necessarily when you're like, it's just a fine, like this time. What do you mean this time? Like why, why could it be bad? Ain't no way I believe that I'd be out of luck, which is weird. And he uses this connotation of the word cops that originated from the mafia, originated prehistory, where officers were called pigs, which, you know, that's a delicate thing to touch, especially when he says, "I want a pig to test me," which pig in this connotation would roughly mean like cop, officer, you know, which is, they're trying to handcuff me. They're trying to, in a sense, in the legal system, they're trying to detain him, but he sees it as an arrest, which an arrest is, they have to read your rights before you're arrested, which, you know, that's more detailed than probably was implied in this song, but it is something to note in the song. He also says, I'm on my Boosie stuff, I'm on my Boosie stuff. And I think this is related to that video of Boosie for years. There are a few videos where Boosie has interaction with cops and he's just, nah, I'm not doing certain things. I'm gonna go on about my day. I'm gonna talk to you in a normal fashion. If it gets out of hand, then I'm going to go on about my day. You know, and I think that's what he means. He says, yeah, I don't really care about the police, and that, yeah, and there's a lot that relates to why he said that line, and it's sketchy. He says in the second verse, he says, "And Mr. Officer, how are you doing?" He says, "But I know my rights," right? It's like, I know my rights, I'm no fool, which it's weird to me that, you know, he uses the word fool, and we'll talk about the connotations of the word fool, but it is, you know, it's interesting to say, you know, I know my rights, which I hope everybody that knows roughly their rights, like Miranda rights, their rights not to self-incriminate themselves, right? Like, there are certain crimes that you know, I wish you would know. You question me, I don't know anything. My Lord told me it's best to keep my lips closed, which means, you know, don't incriminate yourself, which is another thing that when I heard it, I was like, that makes sense. I don't know if a lot of people know it, but, you know, especially if an officer asking you questions, I don't know anything, I don't know what to tell you. Keep it short, sweet, you know, stuff like that, which is weird, I think. But I'm going on a trip, you know. But he says I'm going on a trip, which, I mean, we could argue that when he talks about trip in this connotation, he talks about trip as in he's going to the department or to be detained or county jail. There's a lot that we don't know here, but it is something to, like, look at, and a lot of people don't look at it to begin with, so it's not very much an issue that affects a lot of people, and a lot of people don't know about it. He says, you got a wife or kids? I know, which is in a couple messages on the Ghana side, which is more relating to the way in which people say officers have affairs with their wives because they're married to the job, which, I mean, statistically, that's probably not true, but which is weird. I think this song ends, it could have been better by a lot of demands. It could have been, it probably could have been written better, but I think his overall message is that, you know, there are a lot of people that deal with officers on a daily basis, and we've seen these situations occur that are, like, if we could fix these situations, we'd be in a much better place in America, but there would be people that would still be with us today, and they wouldn't be dead. They wouldn't technically be dead over traffic stops, traffic violations, jaywalking, like stuff like that, like crimes where, you know, conversations are best to have with officers or law enforcement of any kind. But it is, you know, authority, and I figure that if you were to, like, have open conversation, people would probably be less fearful and less aggressive, which to some extent I think we can, you know, Karl Marx and a lot of people have said in there, you know, that, you know, the way that we interact with people could fix a lot of issues. But it is, you know, this song kind of explains it into, like, a song with a melody, a hook, a verse, and a chorus, that there are many situations in America that people aren't aware of, but they will assume that we hear it all the time when there are traffic stops that go terrible, that make the news in mainstream media. We hear it, and so the discussion is, how can we fix it? And to fix that system, you know, how do we fix it? Like, I think there's a certain way, and I've been part of this. I had one, but, you know, there are certain ways that officers come off towards people, and so if you're hostile towards a person, you can only expect hostility back, which I think that's what he's saying when some cops talk, and then like in like authority term, authority tone, they try to get aggressive to see how you'll react, and a lot of people bite that bait and get aggressive with them because they feel like they're being hostile with them, which that just brings more questions and more answers to the song. And that's why I think the song has a deeper message that goes around the world. How can we fix it?